The movie begins in a wide mountain area. A man is walking with several enslaved people, and all of them are chained at their ankles. The year is 1858, a very cruel time when people were bought and treated badly without mercy. The enslaved men are very tired, because they have been walking for a long time, but they are not allowed to rest. Late at night, their owner sees a horse-drawn carriage coming toward them. He shouts and warns the rider to stop, or he will shoot. The man in the carriage calmly says he is just a traveler looking to meet slave traders. He adds that if they are slave traders, maybe they can do business. The owner asks what kind of deal he wants. The man says he is looking for a slave who has worked on a plantation. One of the slaves speaks up and says he has worked on a plantation.
I'm from the Karukan plantation.
The man steps out of the carriage and asks his name. The slave says his name is Django. The rider introduces himself as Dr. King Schultz. He asks Django about 3 brothers, and Django remembers them clearly. This makes Schultz sure that Django is the man he has been looking for. Schultz then asks Django if he wants to go to a plantation. Django agrees because his wife is enslaved on a plantation, and he wants to rescue her no matter what. Suddenly, the slave owner points his gun at Dr. Schultz and orders him to stop talking to the slaves. This makes Schultz furious, and without hesitation, he shoots him. The owner's brother is also there, and Schultz shoots him as well, leaving him badly wounded. After that, Schultz approaches the injured brother and legally buys Django from him before continuing his journey toward town. The remaining slaves are effectively freed as Schultz finishes off the second brother. Schultz brings Django into town and tells him that he is now free and can finally breathe like a free man. Django walks through the town freely, shocking everyone because it is rare to see a formerly enslaved black man moving around without chains. Schultz takes Django into a bar and explains that although he is free, he is not completely independent yet. If he truly wants his freedom and a better future, he must help him with one job. Schultz reveals that he is a bounty hunter, searching for the same 3 brothers he asked Django about the previous night. Before anything else can happen, the sheriff arrives outside, shouting that Schultz cannot take Django because he is a slave. The sheriff already knows about what happened the previous night, and has come to arrest Schultz. Calmly, Schultz walks outside and shoots the sheriff, shocking the entire town. He then escapes with Django. On the way, Schultz asks Django about his wife. Django explains that both he and his wife were enslaved by those same 3 brothers. One day, they tried to escape together. Django managed to get away, but his wife was caught and sent to a plantation. The next day, Schultz arrives to hunt down the 3 brothers. Knowing they will not be allowed inside openly, Schultz pretends to be a slave buyer and makes Django pose as his servant. Once they arrive, Schultz goes inside while Django waits outside. Soon, Django spots 2 of the brothers and shoots them instantly. Schultz rushes out and sees what Django has done. At the same moment, Django notices the 3rd brother whom Schultz shoots himself. The sound of gunfire brings the landowner outside. He points his gun at Schultz, but before he can fire, Schultz shows him a legal warrant proving he had the right to kill the 3 men. After seeing the warrant, the owner cannot say anything, though he is filled with rage, because Schultz and Django have killed 3 of his most important men. He orders his people not to let them leave town, at any cost. Sensing the danger, Schultz avoids sitting in his carriage. When the rich man's men surround it, Schultz blows up the carriage, killing several of them and clearing a path to escape. On the way, Schultz asks Django if he can shoot accurately. Django immediately grabs the gun from Schultz's hand and shoots the rich man, genuinely impressing Schultz. He tells Django that he is a skilled fighter and wants to work with him. Schultz promises that once his own work is finished, he will help Django rescue his wife. Django immediately agrees, because freeing his wife matters more to him than anything else. After this, the 2 of them begin working together. Since Schultz is a bounty hunter, he tracks criminals with government-issued warrants, offering rewards for capturing them dead or alive. Schultz earns money by hunting down these wanted men, and Django becomes very good at it. One day, while heading toward their next target, Django notices a man working in a field with his young son. Schultz tells Django that the man must be killed. However, Django refuses at first, saying he cannot do it because the man's son is too young to witness it. Schultz then shows him the warrant, and reminds him to think about how many innocent people this man may have killed. Hearing this, Django reluctantly shoots the man. Later, after earning a lot of money together, Schultz decides it is time to help Django rescue his wife. However, this will not be easy, because the plantation owner, Calvin Candy, is not only extremely rich, but also very powerful. Schultz knows that Calvin enjoys forcing enslaved men to fight each other for entertainment. So he tells Django that when they meet Calvin, he will pretend to share the same interest and introduce Django as his personal fighter. Soon, they arrive at the place where Calvin is organizing slave fights. Schultz meets Calvin and tells him that he wants to buy his strongest and best fighter. Calvin asks how much he is willing to pay, and Schultz offers $12,000, an enormous amount in 1858. Hearing this, Calvin becomes very pleased. The next day, Calvin takes them to his plantation, where Django's wife is enslaved. When they arrive, a slave attempts to escape, and Calvin releases dogs after him. The dogs brutally attack the man, clearly showing how cruel and heartless Calvin truly is. After this, Calvin takes Schultz and Django into his luxurious mansion, where he introduces them to his sister and his most trusted servant, Stephen, an older black man who runs the house. Schultz tells Calvin that he is extremely tired and wants to rest, and that he also needs a girl. He deliberately mentions Django's wife by name. Calvin agrees without hesitation and sends someone to bring her. It is then revealed that Django's wife has been locked inside a burning hotbox, a small metal container left in the sun, as punishment for trying to escape. The heat has badly burned her skin, showing once again how cruel the system is. Soon, Django's wife is brought before Schultz. Schultz speaks to her in German, knowing that she understands it, and secretly tells her that he and her husband, Django, have come to rescue her. Then Schultz calls Django inside. The moment she sees him, she is so overwhelmed with emotion that she faints. Later that night, everyone sits together for dinner, and Django's wife serves food to the guests. Throughout the meal, Django and his wife keep looking at each other. Everyone assumes they are simply attracted to one another. However, Stephen grows suspicious. He realizes that they already know each other, and that Schultz and Django did not come for a fighter, but for this woman. After dinner, Schultz tells Calvin that it is time to finalize the deal. He offers $12,000 for Calvin's strongest fighter, and also asks to take the girl who was sent to his room, explaining that since she speaks German and his English is weak, she would be useful to him. Calvin agrees without hesitation. However, Stephen pulls Calvin aside and warns him that it is all a trick. He explains that the fighter is just an excuse to take the girl they clearly know. Calvin immediately changes his plan. He decides that if they want the girl, they must pay $12,000 for her instead. Calvin walks outside, places a hammer against Django's wife's head, and threatens to kill her on the spot, forcing Schultz and Django to stop him. Calvin says that if they want to leave with her alive, they must pay the money. Schultz agrees, pays the $12,000, and receives the signed freedom papers. Before leaving, Schultz tells Calvin that he is a cruel man. Calvin ignores the insult and demands that Schultz shake his hand, saying that without a handshake, the deal is not complete. Schultz refuses, and the tension between them rises. Calvin orders his men to kill Schultz if he leaves without shaking his hand. Finally, Schultz appears to agree. He steps forward, but instead of shaking hands, he pulls out a hidden gun and shoots Calvin. Stephen is devastated and holds Calvin's body while crying. Consumed by rage, Stephen shoots Schultz, killing him instantly. Because of pride and ego, a deal that could have ended peacefully instead ends with both men losing their lives. After Dr. Schultz's death, Django is filled with rage. With a gun in his hand, he starts shooting everyone around him. However, he soon runs out of bullets. Candy's men grab his wife, forcing Django to surrender. He is brutally beaten until he loses consciousness. When he wakes up, he realizes he has been sold to a mining company and is separated from his wife again. Django tells the men there that he is not a slave but a free man who was tricked. He says he is a bounty hunter. He shows them a wanted poster that offers $700 for killing a criminal. He suggests they work together, kill the man, and share the money. The three men believe him and give him their guns. As soon as Django gets the weapons, he kills all three of them and escapes. He rides back to the plantation. First, he kills the men who had set dogs on the enslaved people. Then he goes to the room where his wife is being kept. When she sees Django alive, she is filled with joy. Next, Django goes to Dr. Schultz's body and takes the signed papers that give his wife freedom. Angry about Schultz's death, Django attacks Candy's mansion and kills Candy's men, one by one. He then tells the enslaved people that they are free from that moment on. Steven is still alive, so Django shoots him in both legs so he cannot walk. After that, Django leaves the house and blows up the mansion, killing Steven inside. In the end, Django and Broomhilda ride away together on horseback. They are finally free and ready to start a new life without chains. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you next time.